Good morning, everybody. Hi, welcome back, and to sunny Britain actually today, which is wonderful. Welcome to Ask the Expert, an award-winning daily series from 8:30 to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments of the live feed. If you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. During the live session, we'll be running a poll, so please do engage with it, and I'll reveal the results at the end. Now, to celebrate National Payroll Week, QuickBooks are offering 75% off QuickBooks Online and payroll for 4 months. Make sure you follow the link in the comments to find out more. And I've got to say, I remember the very first time when I was fresh into the UK. I was 21 years old and accidentally started my first business. And this whole world of payroll was just absolutely nuts to me. Took me a long time to get my head around it, and since then the advancements in technology and packages like QuickBooks that do the payroll have been proper game changers. It's been pretty amazing. So I'd highly recommend that you definitely go along and take advantage of that discount there. Anyway, guys, so today what we're going to be talking about, again, franchising obviously is the main theme, but what we're going to be talking about a little bit is the relationship between the franchisor and the franchisee. And this is an area that is causes quite a lot of consternation, quite a lot of debate. Different people from different parts of the world have different opinions on what that relationship between the franchisor and the franchisee should look like. But really, the franchisor and the franchisee relationship is something that is always a balance, right? So franchisees are enterprising individuals, right? These are people who take measured risk. They are pro-risk. They are entrepreneurial. They understand business. They understand these things. But what they don't want to do is go and take the ultimate risk, and that is basically starting a DIY business, right? Where the risks of failure are astronomical compared to franchising. So what people do is they go and they take a look at these franchises and they say, well, look, there's the structure, there's the everything, and my odds of success are much higher by going along with the franchise. But when we talk about this balance, right, what you have is you have on the one hand, you have an individual or a family or a company that wants to excel in business, right, by buying a franchise. On the other hand, you have a franchisor who is expanding their business and they want to spread the word and they want to have a greater footprint across the world. Now, most people would actually focus on the finances of all these things, right? They would take a look and they'd say, well, is the franchisee going to make money? And if the unit level economics are right, and the individual franchise unit is making good money, then everything else is going to work. The big trouble is, and this is advice to franchisees who are looking at buying into a franchise network, quite frequently what you have is you have franchise sales or franchisors that charge a very low royalty, right? They charge very low upfront fees, etc. And there's a bit of a danger over there. And the danger is that the balance of this whole thing is you want the franchisee to make money. You as a franchisee want to make a decent living. You want to feed your family. You want to, build a decent business. But in order to do that effectively, right, what you can't have is a franchisor who's not making money, right? Because the franchisor is key to this whole thing. The franchisor is the value for money, is the backup, is the support to making that business work, especially in the early days, right? So as a franchisee, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you've got a franchisor who is also making decent amounts of money, right? Now, instinctively, most of you are going to think, well, hold on, I don't want to give away, more of my turnover because, what are they going to do for me? And how are they going to, justify this royalty or this management service fee or this marketing fee, etc. It's quite easy, and I'll get onto that in a second. But mark my words, one of the most important things that you can look at is that balance, right? So as a franchisee, going in, making sure that the franchisor is making enough money to be able to support you. Now, when we start talking about this whole, the finance and how much money franchisees should pay to a franchisor, etc., it's actually really good to start looking at what a DIY business, what a do-it-yourself business, right, would have to go through and what they would pay for the type of service that that a franchisee receives from a franchisor. So if we were just to run through some of the things that a franchisor offers a franchisee, right? So they offer them a business model. We know that already. What they usually offer them, right, is on-tap marketing. So huge amounts of marketing, leaflets, business cards, advertising for different types of magazines, advertising for different, different media. They offer, methodologies on how to network. There's a huge list of things, right? There's mentoring, there's coaching, right? There is support in terms of if you're going through, any hard times, and etc. And believe me, most of the support queries and most of the support calls that franchisors receive are actually really not about the franchise itself, right? There's a much bigger thing to at play over there. So start running through those things and start looking at what those things would cost you. So if, say, for instance, you decided you were going to get a business coach or a mentor, right, that would chat to you for an hour a week or an hour and a fortnight, etc. On average, if you were just to take a look at another franchise action coach, right, if you were to get, as a DIY business, if you were to pay for a coach, right, you are looking at anywhere from the lower end at about £300 a month, all the way up to a few £1,000 a month. That's just for the business coach. If you were to look for a graphic designer, right, to do the marketing and do the leafleting, etc., for you, bearing in mind that this is just a creative person, right? So there's no strategy behind it. There's no, this is what works, this is what doesn't work, etc. For your particular business, your particular industry, which you would have with a franchise. You are looking at anywhere between £30 an hour and 70 plus an hour for the bigger agencies and for the more established companies, right? If you are looking for a mentor to help you, right, and guide you through the the ups and downs of business, about your industry in particular. So you go and get somebody who's highly experienced in your industry. They've done great things. You say to them, look, could you be my mentor? I'm going to pay you some money just so that I've got somebody to bounce ideas off of, right? And to figure out my business. That person's going to cost you another $1,000, right? Now, by the time you're finished with it, the franchise, the cost of paying the royalty to your franchisor, at the end of it, is going to be fractional compared to the total cost of what you would have to pay if you did it yourself. And if you didn't do it yourself, if you didn't get all these people in place to help you build your business, right? That's a lot of the reason why so many small businesses go out of business, is because they don't have that support network. They don't have those wise words. They don't have a guide in the truest sense of the word. So, if you picture the safari guide, right? This is somebody who's walking ahead of you saying to you, watch out, there's a lion, stand still, don't make a noise, hide behind the tree, climb the tree. You've got all of those things going on, right? If you don't have all of those things, right, the likelihood of you falling foul of something horrible is much higher than if you do have all these things. So this is the balance, right? This is the balance. So you need a franchisor who is able to financially spend the money needed to be able to support you properly. And then if you took a look at the actual cost of that service, the total service, compared to anything outside of the, as an independent, you would realize that it's very, very good value for money, right? It is incredibly cheap, actually, if you take a look at the broader picture. Now, there was a old South African general. He's actually got pride of place in Parliament Square, a guy called Jan Smuts. He was one of the founders of the United Nations and the League of Nations, and incidentally also was the founder of the Royal Air Force. Now, he was a general and also a philosopher, and he had this theory called holism, right? And his theory of holism was very, very simple. What he said was 1 + 1 + 1 + 1, right, equal 5, right? So what it basically meant was the fifth element was the whole, right? So you got 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 = 5, right? And basically what he was saying is the sum of the parts, right, are greater than the individuals, which is incredible, actually. So as a unit, when you're standing as a unit, right, that is when the business is at its strongest. And that's where franchise comes in. So what you are basically doing is you are creating this little tribe right? You're creating something that is bigger than the sum of its parts, right? You're creating something that can overcome all kinds of issues because of that unity within it. And as I said before, you've got all of these mentors and people all around, to help you. But anyway, I'm gonna jump onto a few questions. We've got a few questions that have come in so far. And the first one is Millie on Instagram. So I really want to leave my job to start my own business, but I don't have enough capital to fully fund myself. What would you recommend? I've been looking at the franchise model. Would you suggest this? Millie, 1,000,000%. I would absolutely recommend it. The thing is that I don't think people fully understand or comprehend how very difficult it is being an entrepreneur, right? Starting your own business. It is a very, very lonely place. The reason for it is because you have to suddenly, make decisions on things that you have no experience in normally. And I'm not talking about this in a bad way. I think this is a big problem for many, many people. I've seen many great CEOs from top companies in the city, join a franchise and suddenly realize that there are about 200 other things that they need to think about that are outside of their experience. So when you join a franchise, what you're doing, right, is you are basically going into a system where, effectively you could treat it as education for small business, right? Because a franchise term is usually 5 years. At the end of the 5 years, you can continue on with the franchise, or you can go and do something else. But in reality, especially if you choose the right franchise, and if you need any advice on that, I know most of them, it can be a very, very, very good thing for you. It's certainly much safer. So, if we just take a look at the statistics, and, there's a lot of statistics that get bandied around, but the one that is, for franchising that counts, right, is the fact that 93.7% of franchisees are not only still in business, but they are profitable after 3 years. Now, that's 93%, right? If you compare that just with normal small businesses, right, DIY businesses, I mean, depending on who you speak to, within 3 years, some people will say that it's up to 80% of small businesses that have failed. It varies from about 40 to 80. What it isn't is 93% success rate, right? So what you'll get and what you'll really enjoy with being in a franchise is not only will you have that business model, but crucially, you'll have a load of other franchisees who have walked in the same steps that you're about to walk in. They have done it. They know exactly what you're going through. They know the context. They know the company. They know the troubles. They know the positives, the negatives, the everything, right? So it's actually what you're joining is not just a franchise; it's a community. And that's very, very powerful. It really does help a lot. So I hope that answers your question. I'm more than happy to give advice if you want to contact me directly. Great. So just moving on to Jenny on Twitter. Is being a franchise owner almost like being a mentor? If yes, how do you learn to be a good mentor or find the time to mentor all of them? Well, Jenny, honestly, you are completely right. But you are not just a mentor. You are also a coach. You're also a financial advisor. To be honest with you, you become everything, right? All of the elements that are required, both from a mental and actual physical process point of view, right? Franchisors kind of cover all of those, and there are loads of ways that we do it, right? So what we do it is we have operations manuals as an example, right? The operations manual is one of the most powerful tools in our arsenal. And the operations manual basically is a Q&A for the franchisee. So if they have a question or if they don't know how to do something, it is usually updated in the ops manual. And companies are getting brilliant at that. So the technology around that is pretty amazing nowadays. So the responses are often video responses. That's one way that a franchisor kind of limits the actual physical face-to-face time that they need to do with franchisees. You would have staff members, support team that actually deal with your franchisees. Franchisees support each other in a massive way. There's a fantastic tutoring franchise that I'm mentoring at the moment. And their answer is basically they will answer questions if it's not explained well in the operations manual, and once you've spoken to other franchisees who've already overcome the problem, right, then do you speak to the franchisor, which is brilliant, because what it does is it really it verifies information really, really well. So you might read it in the ops manual and then speak to a franchisee. They'll put some context around, and if you're still not sure, you speak to the franchisor. So to give you some idea of how good franchisors are at this, there are networks of franchises with 100, 200 people in there. In fact, the franchise that I used to run years back, we had 800 franchisees in total. Half of those were in one office, and that one office, running 400 franchisees, had a support team of 4. So 4 people supporting 400. Just because the systems and the backup and everything like that are pretty robust. Again, if you need any advice on that, it's more than happy just to talk you through it and tell you how it works. But it is a tried and tested technique, works all over the world. And as I said, it's good enough to help franchisees succeed 93.7% of the time, which is always good, Great. Let's see where we go to next, right? So, okay, we've had Jenny. Amy on Instagram DM. Hi, Amy. I want to start using more digital tools to increase efficiency in the workforce. Do you have any advice on how to introduce them to the team? Are there any that you would recommend? Amy, there's loads. To be honest, we have been looking at technology quite deeply recently. So, there are certain, at the moment, we use a certain company called Social Places, right? Which does a lot of our social work for franchising in particular. So in that, we've got reputation management, right? So reputation management is monitoring all social channels, including chats, 24/7, and it's measuring the intent of the conversation, right? So not only is it looking for people saying this is a horrible service, blah 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 blah. It is also just reading the tone of the messaging to see whether or not this person is actually quite unhappy or not, right? And it'll flag up automatically. If there are any particular red flags or anything like that, it just bangs off text messages to everybody. But on top of that, what it also does, right, is it manages things like Google My Business, all of the social channels at once. And there's loads of technologies like this, right? This one is particularly good, but the rise of technology in terms of managing that side of things is really, spot on. What's great from a franchisor's point of view is when you do get a great piece of software like this, you can manage your network at scale, right? So there could be 1,000 franchisees dotted all around the country, and you could change their opening times on Google My Business all from one spot. You can put out tweets, you can put out messages, etc., all from one spot. And still allow the franchisees to have access to be able to do their own thing. Another piece of technology that we've been experimenting with and is doing some pretty amazing stuff is AI technology for content writing. So there's this crazy Elon Musk software or sort of initiative. And basically they've got this technology called GPT-3, which is this content writing technology. It is scarily good, like properly, like when you first use it, you start thinking, wow, it's soon books and articles and all kinds of things are going to be written by this. But so we use a particular part of that software called copy.ai. So that's copy in the traditional sense .ai. If you just need an outline for a blog, or if you need some content, you need a header done for your website or whatever, you just chuck it in there and that comes up. But there are loads of other technologies that are coming through that's really, really, really make it efficient. I honestly do think that in a few years' time, franchise networks are going to be run by 2 or 3 people, the whole network. So I think technology is playing a very, very big role at the moment. Paul from Facebook Messenger. Are franchisors able to apply for support from large conglomerates to help with recovery from the pandemic? Paul, yes and no. So what they can do, right, as a franchisor, they can go and they can add the weight of the network to a conversation with a large conglomerate or with a landlord or whoever it might be. The thing is that franchisees are still individual businesses, right? So they are still individual limited companies. So what the franchisor can do is they can lend their weight They can put their brand, they can put pressure on and say, well, listen, we've got 200 franchisees here, all of who are your, are your clients today, but that may not be the case tomorrow, type thing. But other than that, it still kind of broadly follows the rules of, as an example, if you get a landlord, right, franchisor can come along and negotiate on your behalf, but that landlord can still make decisions that'll impact your individual particular company. So yeah, I mean, I hope that answers the question. But franchisors do, they do carry a lot of weight, especially with some of the bigger suppliers. But it's not infinite. There's still that direct relationship with the franchisee. Right, Ron on Twitter, what do you think are the most common reasons some businesses fail in the first few years? Oh, Ron, honestly, I've got to, I often tell this story and I say to people, well, there's lots of people with abbreviations behind their names, that they've written books and all kinds of things, tombs on why small businesses fail and why they don't. I'll tell you why I think they do. And it's actually very simple. It doesn't sell big fat books, but it's pretty straightforward. So in the first few months, right, if you monitor franchisees, and this is where, as a franchisor, you've got a beautiful position to be able to just monitor the behavior of multiple small businesses, right? And my theory on why small businesses fail is because they focus on the things that don't actually sell stuff, right? They focus on the things that don't actually make a fundamental difference to whether or not they're going to be able to get a client or not. So, if you take a look at the average small business, the amount of time the guys will spend designing their business card, right, prior to being able to go out and sell, is astonishing. Getting the website exactly right, getting every single word carefully crafted, moving the dot from here to here, will take months. So a lot of people, when they get into small businesses, what they'll do is they'll go straight into it, right? And with all that energy, they'll take a look at the things they have to do, and then they'll focus on the things that they think are great. So, as a small business, a business person, you go to work, and you're working with a designer, and that designer has to do your business cards, they have to do your website, they have to do all of that kind of stuff. For 2 or 3 months, right? You're going home to your wife or to your husband, and you're saying, "Oh my God, you should see the day I've had. I have been busy all day, right? And that I can't believe. All I wanted them to do was make it this tone of red, not that tone of red for the website, right?" So as the small business owner, they feel like they're working super hard. They really feel like they're putting in all this effort. They're putting in their blood, sweat, and tears. They're doing 18 hours plus days, etc. But they're not doing anything that will necessarily bring them in money. So one of the exercises that we always do with franchisees, right, is as part of the selection process, right, and as part of the ongoing success of the franchise, when they first sign on the dotted line, before they have business cards, before they have a website, before they have anything whatsoever, any leaflets, anything like that, right, we say to them, go out and get 4 customers. Straight away. And the reason for it is because we have to demonstrate that you don't need any of that stuff. All you need is to go and speak to some humans, right? And ask those humans if they know some humans that might be interested in your service. You do that for 5 to 10 days, you'll find someone, right? You'll have your first lead without all of the stuff. And this is where a lot of small businesses really fail. The second key place where small businesses fail, and this is where we as franchisors have to put in the huge amounts of support, to just keep the mind of the business person kind of on track, right? Is when they have to start hiring staff. Hiring staff is a massive thing, especially the first few, because the problem is that the small business owner instinctively, right, puts their heart and soul into all the business that they do. However, what they do is they expect, when they hire somebody who probably is getting paid more than them, when they hire somebody, they're expecting that person to be better than they are. They're expecting that person to be better than they are. And when they're not, and when that person makes a mistake, right, they throw the toys, and they say, I better just do it myself. This isn't working. It's never going to work unless I do it, right? because they don't allow the person to make mistakes in order to learn and develop, right? You've got to have the right mindset for expansion. But that's just a couple of the things that I've seen. And I think it's probably, relatively scientific, because the reality is we do this with hundreds of small businesses. So we know where we have to support them at the, at their weakest, really. So I hope that answers the question in some way, shape, or form. Poppy on Instagram DM, I run a small startup and have always worked alone. However, 2 years ago, I hired a couple of freelancers to try and grow my business. As of yet, I've not seen much growth and haven't made any profits since outsourcing. What am I doing wrong? Poppy, honestly, the thing is, you need to, I'm assuming here, but I think that the only thing that you're missing right now is a better sales process or more time focused on sales. Because, the freelancers, and I've seen this in my businesses, I've seen it in a number of other businesses, right, where you do outsource and you do get the staff in. What often happens is the person, especially in the creative world, the entrepreneur still double checks everything. They still, they still micromanage everything, which means that they are actually still spending a huge amount of time doing what they did before the freelancers came, except it's a lot more expensive right now. So the answer is you need to double down. You need to actually really step back. You need to get out there, network like mad. Just book yourself into networking, local networking, online networking, all kinds of networking, and just sell. Let them step up, let them make mistakes, right? Which they will do. Just accept that they will do. And they might be costly mistakes too, but they'll never grow and develop, until you actually do that. And I think it's really just the sales side of things. Poppy, honestly, if you want to have a chat about it, absolutely no strings attached. Just give me a shout. Happy to talk you through it. We do this every day. So love to hear from you. Right, moving on to Sophie from Facebook Messenger. So, Sophie, I need to let a member of my team go. I've tried to support them over the last 12 months, but unfortunately, it's just not working. Do you have any advice on how to handle this? I also need to hire someone new to replace them, but I'm really nervous about finding the right person. Right. So, I am a big believer in just, honesty. And, when somebody is, especially over this period of time, if things are just not working out, they know it too. Right? They absolutely know it too. So, what you want to do is you just want to pull them in and say to them, listen, here's the problem. This is an issue. And, I just don't think you're hitting your targets, etc. But I would rip the Band-Aid off, right? Go through an HR company, make sure that you do everything correctly. But in reality, I think, what you're doing by delaying it is you're actually not giving them the benefits of being able to, to enjoy their job, because they probably aren't. And it's causing you massive amounts of stress. There's no doubts, on that. With regards to hiring new people, we have a particular way of doing things, right? So franchisors, what we recruit is we don't recruit for today, right? We don't look at the person we see today. We don't look for, the smile and the charisma and all of that of a well sort of trained person who is good at passing interviews. We always are looking for what that person is going to be like 2 years down the line. We're looking for character, right? We're looking for resilience. And as such, we don't follow, generally speaking, a traditional come work for us kind of recruitment process. We put challenges in the way, right? Not in the form of psychometric tests and all those kind of fancy things, right? What we want is the character. We want the real human, right? So we have these little challenges that we put in the way. Little things like, when we invite somebody in for an interview, you wouldn't necessarily give them a map, right? Because you want to know whether or not the person's got the nous to open up Google, and find you. But there's a whole process behind it. So recruitment for franchisees is huge. But I think that a lot of small businesses should use the same process, because when we get franchisees, right, we know what they're going to be like. We know what they're going to be like when the chips are down. We know what they're going to be like when they're feeling depressed, etc. Because we've taken them through this whole long process. So if you want some advice on that, I'd be more than happy to give it to you. We call it the chain link recruitment process. and it is genius, honestly. Staff turnover is very low, and you also do get the cream of the crop every time. And ironically, the cream of the crop is almost never the person that you think was going to be the cream of the crop. So yeah, please feel free to contact me. I'm happy to talk you through that. Ricardo on Instagram, when it comes to marketing, what sort of support should a franchisor offer their network? Ricardo, so it's a difficult question to answer, but in general, right, the franchisor's role and responsibility is national marketing, brand building marketing, right? The kind of marketing that basically is quite generic. It is all about uplifting the brand and making sure that the brand is well known. That generally will happen in conjunction with a franchisee's local marketing. So in most franchise agreements, it'll say that the franchisee is wholly responsible for local marketing, right? Getting out there, doing the leafleting, doing the local pay-per-click, Facebook ads, all of that kind of stuff. Franchisor comes in at the top level, right? And quite often you might find the franchisee and the franchisor advert on the same page when you do a search. But generally speaking, the franchisor needs to provide you with new materials, a library of social media posts, etc. There's a whole load of things that they can do. But just going back to right in the beginning of this conversation, you're going to make sure that your franchisor is making enough money in order to be able to support you properly, because that really often is one of the big issues, is that the franchisors charge too small a royalty, and then they get themselves tied up all in knots because they can't afford to be able to provide the support that they really should be doing. I hope that answers your question. Again, happy to, if you want to just email me or whatever, we can arrange a call and I can talk you through that. Right, guys, it's that time again. The poll results are in, and we asked you, do you think your business has the potential to go global? 30% of you said yes. Speak to me, please. 20% of you said no. I would argue that potentially there might be a way to make that happen. And 50% of you answered not sure. And that's exactly right. So not all businesses are made to go international. Some are, and can be an absolutely brilliant experience. We help a lot of people, expand their businesses internationally and into Britain. But actually, Britain is an amazing market, right? The rest of the world wants to sell into Britain. So, just being able to, dominate your local environment is still an absolutely incredible market. So, that's brilliant, guys. Anyway, right. So, guys, thanks all of you for tuning in. If you want to get in contact with me, please email me on Sean@growglobal. So that's GROE global.com, or visit our website at www.growglobal.com. That's GROE global.com. Coming up on Ask the Expert tomorrow is Judith Dugdale, an accountant and head of digital solutions at MHA Moore and Smalley. Tune in to learn how to maximize the value of your business. A reminder that if you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and business experts on hand 24/7. Oh, and don't forget, it is National Payroll Week, so get 75% off your QuickBooks Online and payroll for 4 months. Link in the comments. Really enjoyed answering your questions today. Please feel free to contact me with any further queries. And I hope you have a wonderful and sunshiny day today. Cheers.